Iceland, which was managing director, its owner, very much for supporting, the fight against climate change. So much so they stopped using palm oil. Using palm oil is all part of the things they need to do to make sure that
because they chop trees down to get palm oil.
Indeed, it's not good for the planet. It's not good for the planet, so they stopped using palm oil. Yeah. However, it seems actually the planet comes second if it's costing them too much money, because they have now reverted to using palm oil because of the crazy price.
1,000% apparently it's gone up 10 times.
Rise. 10 times. I tell you what, this cost of living crisis, it's a killer. I have no idea what is going on. I've never seen in all of my life. Now, I'm not the oldest, I'm not the youngest, though. I remember the crash. I remember the 2008 economic crash. Prices didn't go up like this.
And there's Dishy Rishi and his £300 trainers. Luckily, I bought a 5-litre sunflower oil, so if anyone, Twitter me, I can arrange a good price.
Wow, my gosh.
It is hard.
You're going to be selling sunflower oil on the black market, black web.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Yes. Well, I think you're going to be earning, you're going to be making a lot of money with it, because 1,000% rise in sunflower oil. And they say this happened. So we had Brexit, that caused things to go up. Then we had the pandemic. Again, we had lorry drivers.
The container problem, that's gone up loads, like 10 times containers.
And just when you think, nothing more could happen that would lead to any more of the prices. We had energy prices going up. Just when you think, hey, that's it.
It can't be any more, that's it,
Got the war in Ukraine.
Which is the breadbasket of the world.
Russia, indeed, when it comes to wheat
and all Russia other things, it grows everything.
Some of our oil, some of our energy, and so yes, because of that,
we're going to be living on dust.
Oh my gosh! It's going to. Gosh, what film was it? There's a film where like £1,000 is what you needed to buy a bottle of water.
But it is worrying, because this is where you get like people with the pitchfork and people on the streets. I mean, if people are starving and can't eat and heat. What, and they've already spent their money on furlough and all. What are we going to do, man?
Can life just stop? Can it just be normal? For at least the rest of the decade. That would be nice. Do you know what I mean? It's just been a crazy few years. Let's speak to Jason Reid. He's head of Young Voices UK. Jason, good to have you with us tonight.
Good evening. Good to see you.
What is going on? The prices, they just ain't dropping. 1,000% rise in sunflower oil.
Yeah, they are just going through the roof, and this is really hitting people at a local level. So we're hearing so many stories of people who are already having to choose between heating their homes or putting food on the table, which is just an unimaginably awful situation to be in. And it's only going to get worse over the next few months, which is why I think it's so important that now is the time we put to one side the kind of the green virtue signaling and we don't use this product, we use that product because supposedly it's better for the environment. On the one hand, first of all, that isn't necessarily the case, as I think is the case with palm oil. But even if it was, I think, slowing deforestation a little bit, we've got to weigh up the costs of that with the cost of making food more expensive and maybe pricing out some people from the market, making them unable to put food on the table. But with the palm oil example with Iceland that you mentioned, it was back in 2018 that Iceland made the switch to sunflower oil. It was a big splash of publicity, and they said we're going to be saving the rainforests.
I remember covering it. I covered it. We covered it. It was a big news story. Wow, supermarket making such a big commitment when it came to climate change and making sure they were doing the right thing for our planet. So I'm very, very surprised that they've backtracked.
Well, they sort of had no choice, because the price of sunflower oil, as you were saying, has gone up 1,000%.
Well, they could take on the price, but then I guess that defeats Iceland, isn't it? Because Iceland's supposed to be cheap, supposed to be the place for families on a really tight, low budget could go to, and I guess if they do increase prices, that could change that.
And it's not just the price, there's also supply chain issues with access. The boss, Richard Walker, the managing director of Iceland, he said that if they weren't going back to palm oil, the only alternative would have been for a lot of their frozen own brand products to just disappear from the shelves effectively for the time being. They would not be able to sell. The two items that were mentioned were frozen chips and breaded fish. So literally,
they would be right if they got rid of that. The chips, especially.
I think there might be.
Oh no, that's if you're on a tight budget, and this is me. So I grew up on a council estate, single mum. My mum had so little money when I was a kid, especially as a teenager. Chips is your staple food. Do you know what I mean?
Chips,
like a bag of chips. When I was a kid, it was at 80p. Now it's about £5. But yeah, when I was a kid, 80p, a bag of chips in the oven. That's your dinner sorted.
Beautiful.
And so the last thing we need when we have a cost of living crisis and food prices through the roof is governments and state actors getting involved and saying, here are the products we're going to ban, and we're going to do, over-regulation of this and import ban on that, which is what the European Union is doing right now when it comes to palm oil, especially as a biofuel. We need free choice in the market. We need the market to be able to choose what's cheapest and most efficient. And on top of that, there's the fact that there's so much of this is about pressure from the green blob, and it's not based in fact. Palm oil is the perfect example. When you compare it to alternatives such as sunflower oil, which Iceland switched to, palm oil is better for the environment because sunflower oil means you have to use a lot more land, you have to chop down a lot more trees in order to get the same amount of product, which on the one hand means it's more expensive for you and me. It means people can't afford to buy the food that they need. And on the other hand, it also means that it's worse for the environment because we're committing deforestation at a much, much faster rate.
So hold on, why were they doing it then? If it was all a load
because palm oil's name has been tarnished, it's been associated with deforestation. And so this is exactly the problem. They wanted to be seen to take action rather than actually achieving good results. This is why virtue signaling
But why has
is
the
so
myth come
dangerous.
out? Why is this myth? How's this myth come around then?
Because
is it the
it's
producers?
so commonplace.
Is it because sunflowers look nice?
Maybe that's part of it. There's other oils as well, of course, soybean oil and rapeseed oil, which some people, when they quit palm oil, go there as well. But they're just as inefficient. Sometimes it takes as much as 10 times more land to get the same amount of product.
So you think this makes
sense.
complete sense for Iceland? In fact, they never should have bothered.
I don't think they should have switched away from palm oil to begin with. If what they care about is protecting the planet and stopping deforestation, then yeah, of course, you use the more efficient product. And then there's the cost angle as well, which we've been talking about, which is especially relevant right now because food prices are increasing anyway because of inflation, because of the war in Ukraine, because of supply chain issues. And so the last thing we need is to make it even worse artificially by interfering in the market in this way. And it affects things other than food as well. Palm oil is a biofuel, which the European Union wants to put a stop to. It wants to stop importing palm oil for that purpose in the next few years. I think now, if ever, we should be having more diverse sources of energy. We need to be doing fracking.
Jason, you're sounding like you're pro-Brexit. Would that be a fair assessment? Because I got a question. I got a question, a text from Ian in Leeds. He's asking, can you explain why prices went up because of Brexit? That's a comment I made earlier. Of Brexit, we've had the pandemic and now the war. And I said that the combination of all of that has led to prices going up. And it was already going up even before the war, even before the pandemic. Was that fair for me to say that Brexit's partly to blame for prices going up?
I'm not sure it is. This is, I think many people, perhaps on the Remain side of the debate, would like to make it out to be a much bigger contributing factor than it is. Prices have gone up in other parts of the world as well, which have not just left the European Union.
Yeah, it's a commodity, isn't it? It's a world price. It's gone up 1,000%. Surely, it's nothing to do with
exactly. Yeah, food commodity prices, exactly right, have been going up for some time.
Actually, I know. So with Brexit, it did mean that we had many Europeans having to leave to go back home, and that led to a shortage of workers. And then to add to that, we had the pandemic where people obviously were locked down, jobs that people might have had, even Europeans might have had, they no longer had, so they went back home because of that. So the combination of Brexit and the pandemic meant that we had a shortage of staff, which also meant there were problems for companies, which added to prices going up.
Lazy Britain's just not
not lazy Britain. I don't know what's going on, but because of Brexit
they're not good
and
fruit
the pandemic,
pickers, apparently. We spoke to farmers. We're not very good at fruit picking.
There is a real shortage
but
of
also
staff.
The euro
and it's a combination of that. Now, I'm not saying that I'm anti-Brexit. That's not what I'm saying at all. Nobody knows how I feel. And if you did know, you'll be so surprised. But anyway, nobody knows how I feel. However, I'm just saying it's a fact. After the pandemic, and even before the pandemic hit, we were starting to see a shortage in staff, and it was exacerbated by the pandemic.
But weren't people going back because, it became valuable to work in Europe? In fact, they'd earn more now in Europe because the euro got stronger.
Maybe, but it's just a combination of reasons as to why we're seeing prices going up, which includes Brexit, not just a standalone, was my point.
Let's not forget that for years and years, we had Project Fear. We had, when George Osborne was in the Treasury, the predictions that were being churned out were practically apocalyptic. They were saying the economy was going to implode and we were all going to...
They said World War III and look what we are now.
It is, yeah. Now you say it. He was right.
Because of Brexit. That's because there's been, wars.
I know. I'm just being a bit facetious.
Yeah, so what's actually happened as a result of Brexit, even if we take the more pessimistic assessments, is tiny. It's 1% of what the Remain side were telling us was going to happen when they were trying to stop Britain from leaving the EU.
Well, actually, I think some of it isn't too. The worries we were having with workers, there were lots of rhetoric of foreigners, Europeans taking our jobs, and so they've gone, and we are having a jobs crisis. There are companies desperate for people to work for them, and they're not getting people going through their doors.
But that's, again, true elsewhere in the world as well. We've seen the Great Resignation, as it's been termed in the US, which has not left the European Union in any recent period of history. You know, this is just, there's a changing dynamic between employees and employers. The power is shifting a little bit, which is just organic. That's just what happens in a market. And Brexit was never going to be completely smooth sailing. You know, it's a transition. It's a big change that we made to the way that our country works. But
it's been good for wages though in this country. I mean, truckers now earn a proper wage instead of being, you know, taking the mick out of and giving rubbish facilities. They're having to be looked after properly.
Which is part of the reason now we're dealing with an inflation crisis.
Well, yeah, but the whole world is, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, the whole world is dealing with an inflation crisis, not because we're paying our truckers.
But Iceland are just answering what the public want. You know what I mean? It's like when they say
the public don't want prices to go up.
No, exactly, but that's why.
Well, you say that, but on the one hand, the public don't, of course, want prices to go up, but then the public also don't want to buy anything that has palm oil in it, or so we're told by the people in power. And that's why this green blob, you know, on the one hand, of course, we can all agree that stopping deforestation is a good thing, and we want to, if something's contributing to deforestation, of course, we want to move away from that. But you've got to think about the next step. Sure, okay, we stop using palm oil, and then what's the next step? We have to replace it with something. We still have to use some oil to make those products, and all the other options at the moment are less efficient, and they cause more.
All right, Iceland's gone back to using palm oil, and Jason Reed is all for it. Jason Reed, head of Young Voices UK, good talking to you. Thank you. What do you think? Do you even give a darn? Do you care about whether any company, not just Iceland, is using palm oil? Do you care? Would you look at what the ingredients are? I love butter. My mum stopped us having butter. We started eating, was it sunflower oil or flora? Yeah. What is flora? What is that?
No, a lot of margarine, though, apparently isn't even yellow. It's grey, and they add yellow to
margarine
make it
is just man-made, disgusting.
Do you remember they used to say it was better than butter?
They did. That's why my mum went to it. Yeah, but yeah, good. Why are we talking about butter? We're talking about palm oil.
Yeah. Well, it's all frying. It's all frying, isn't it? It's my fault.
Gosh.
You know.
Anyway,
this is why I put on.
Let us know what you think. We're not talking about butter. We're talking about palm oil. 0344 499 1000. We're going to be taking your calls and actually reading your many text messages after this.
Bold Talk Radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.